Yeah, I didn't even put on like the ball drop this year or anything. Usually I like will put that on in the background. And
Did you put on any of the TV? Because it's super boring.
no, I didn't do. We didn't watch anything.
I went to a water park, an indoor water park. I mean, it's winter and cold in Chicago. We took our kid to this place called the Great Wolf Lodge. Shout out Great Wolf Lodge. And it's insane. It's like an indoor water park with tons of slides and like a lazy river. It's kind of awesome because there's a hotel like connected to it. So you don't have to do anything. You just wake up like, hey, you want to go swim? Okay. And she freaking loved it. Slides, and she loves baths and water, so she went crazy. And with a couple of friends, we should do it sometime if you guys are into it. Cause
my kids love water.
Oh my God. It was the kids, and they're so tired at the end of it. So you can just like have a good time as adults and like hang out in a hotel room, which is kind of weird, but whatever. I think we've allocated enough time to children.
Okay.
Do you want to start the show?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Nick, headline today is Chromexcel. Where do you want to start with this? I feel like we have a lot that we can talk about.
Yeah, I don't want this to be like Chromexcel is so great. Hour or however long it is.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like I kind of just like want to talk about like it and other leather and sort of the historical, like where it fits in, and kind of like leather in general, I guess, because it's just an old tannage that's been around for a long time that has a bunch of different applications, and I think that maybe it's associated, especially recently, with just one thing, like shoes and boots, but it's got a longer lineage than that, which I think is interesting. And fortunately, my ancestors are all hoarders. So I have all paperwork and like everything going back forever and ever because nobody threw anything out, which probably seemed like really annoying at the time, but I'm very thankful for it.
Is that what's in this?
Yeah, I got some like price lists from the 20s, 30s, and into the 40s, and some stuff from even a little earlier than that, and then some stuff from around World War II, or I guess during World War II, from like the quartermaster about customers and what was being made with stuff, and how our stuff compared to other tanneries, basically versions of the same thing, which is I think is just interesting. I mean, I don't exactly know what the function of that is, and we'll get into like there's actually some like number comparisons. But
what was as far as you can tell from these historical records, do you recall or can you find what the first intended use for Chromexcel was?
It's not clear. I mean, some of the oldest orders I've seen are for like Weinbrenner
shoes
and it's like C.W. Marsh. So it was, I think from the very beginning it was shoes, and then like I think they call them packings. It's like leather seals for engines and other things you would put a gasket or a seal into.
I didn't realize Weinbrenner was around or has been around since.
Yeah,
what was the year that you found on this?
That one was like 1912, I think, or 1918.
So crazy.
Let's see. I don't remember exactly when Weinbrenner shoe. They're super old.
The numbers are so nuts. I feel like 10 year a business that's been around for 10 years is like, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. Like you succeeded, and then you're talking about 110 plus.
Yeah, Weinbrenner started in 1892.
Oh my God.
Albert Weinbrenner, age 27, started the business.
Always in Wisconsin?
Can you imagine starting something like that when you're 27? I guess you're gonna be dead when you're 40, so it's different.
Isn't that in like the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin too? It's not Milwaukee.
It's
I think they're up near where I go in the summer sometimes.
It's not.
It's like the center of the state in the forest.
It's not a metropolitan zone. Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of a weird tangent, but have you heard of Kohler, Wisconsin?
Yes.
There's a whole town built around
toilets.
People making toilets. I wonder if that's what was up with Weinbrenner too, because it was a lot of these like German enclaves of they would just bring their whole town. Like, let's make shoes.
Kohler's interesting. It's like a factory. It was like a planned. Isn't like a planned factory town.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice place when the weather's nice.
They have a museum there that's actually pretty cool. The toilet. It sounds ridiculous, but it's actually cool.
They do make a decent toilet.
I don't know where to go with that one,
Nope.
but you must have a lot
moving on.
a lot of toilet experience.
About average, I would say.
So Weinbrenner and CW Marsh making motor seals and engine seals, or just gaskets.
Yeah, different stuff. And then there were other. I mean, CW Marsh. They're still around. That was not the only company doing that stuff. There was another company called Chicago Rawhide, which I was talking to my dad a little bit about, and I think they had their own tannery, and then they closed the tannery but kept like the seal and gasket part of it going. So they needed a supplier, so we were supplying them, and they were obviously in Chicago, given the name. But we had a truck that would go back and forth from there. I have a picture of my grandfather, like as a kid, sitting in the truck, which I think is on Instagram forever ago. But and then they were taking 5,000 sides a week just to that one customer, which is
What you do in a week,
more
than what you do in a
than we
week.
do in a week for everybody.
Yeah.
Comfortably more than we do in a week
Today,
for everybody
yeah.
today. Yeah. So it's just at the scale of the business was, well, I guess our business, but also like the motor seal, engine seal, gasket. I mean, they still use some of that leather in some of those applications because it's still better, but it's just more expensive and harder to manufacture like anything else. And
As opposed to,
rubber, plastic, composite. Yeah.
yeah. So these days you don't do 5,000 sides a week of it. You do how much? None a week.
I would say I don't know.
If you were to like schedule out over every week of the year,
Maybe 1,000 a year.
yeah,
1,000 across the entire year. Maybe,
a pretty big change.
I would say. Yeah. And I guess now it's for, they use them in, going back to Kohler, they use them in like sink faucets. I don't know
Really?
why. I just found that out yesterday. And then like really high pressure applications like oil rigs. Because
I was gonna say, why would they use the leather over the rubber?
because it cracks and leaks instead of like completely fails, and the failure is gradual instead of catastrophic. So it's something you can fix instead of something that you're like trying to manage, like an accident.
Advantageous for a faucet and perhaps a tank.
Yeah. Well,
Did they were those in tanks or mainly faucets? I mean, motors is my understanding.
yeah. At one point, everything was like all of the seals and gaskets were leather. In the beginning, I was talking.
Marsh supplies for.
I don't know
seals?
what their customer list was. I mean, during like for the war efforts, I assume it was everything, like kind of like it was for us. But my dad was saying that a lot of the seals were for aircraft engines. I think before, during, and after the war. And he was saying that different customers would order different colors of the same leather. Like CW Marsh would order one color. It was like a yellow, and then Chicago Tan would order some orange. Or I might have that reversed, but it doesn't really matter. But the color didn't matter at all because as soon as they got it, they were putting it like inside of two metal rings to make a gasket. But he was saying that for aircraft purposes, that they wanted the different colors because if there was ever like a airline accident and they were having to look at parts from an airplane, they could tell where the gaskets had come from by what color the leather was.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
You're kind of making me feel like we need to back up, though.
Let's back up.
What the hell is Chromexcel? It's not a word. It's a tannage, a type
words.
of. Well, it's become known as CXL, and I'm kind of thinking we just need to back way up to describe it to somebody like my dad.
Yeah.
When he sees the word Chromexcel, how would you describe that to him?
Yeah, it's a very traditional tannage, and it sort of borrows really traditional tanning methods, and then also integrates some more modern, I guess. Modern being a relative term to how the age of whenever chrome tanning was developed 130 years ago. Then even into today with how we finish it, because we've had to, and we've wanted to adapt how we work on the surface of that. So it's kind of like a living product, I guess. But It's traditional in the sense
Because you've changed it? What do you mean?
well, it's just we're updating it. It gets careful updates when materials change or when dyes get discontinued or when dye alternatives come into play. Like we made the choice to move that away from a solvent-based finish. So there's no solvents in it anymore. It's all water-based. And that was the right thing to do, but also something that you have to do now. But we did that years and years ago. So that's what I mean by it's been updated.
So if I looked at a formulation from, what'd you say, 1913?
Something like that.
If I looked at
Or
a
even
formula
older, yeah.
from 1913 of the retannage, how different would that be from today's formulation?
The retannage not really different at all. I mean, some of the greases or waxes might have slightly different names, or we might be getting something that's a little more or less refined, just because that's what's available. Because all that stuff, all those like the wool grease and the tallow and all the rendered greases were coming from Chicago, so they were getting what they were getting, and you had a lot of choices, which we don't really have a ton of choices anymore. So we identify what works and what's good, but really the only difference there is the color that it imparts. But
I'm derailing us because I think we still need to
figure out what we're talking about.
What the hell is Chromexcel? So I'll give you my perception.
Well, it's a traditional product, and it's tanned. You start with a steer hide, and it gets chrome tanned like a lot of leathers in the world do, and we do that because it's relatively an efficient process, and it also gives something that's durable in terms of tensile strength and heat resistance. And then that's sort of where the modern stuff stops. And then we treat it like a leather that you would have made hundreds of years ago. We retan it with tree barks. So that's we refer to as a veg retannage. And that's nice because it gives you something that ages well, but also something that feels like really solid and round, to use the industry term. And then after that, it gets hot stuffed, which is an impregnation with unrefined waxes and oils using time and steam only. And the reason you don't use water there like you would in some other tannages or more modern tannages, which is easier. It's easier to emulsify and use water, is that we're using things you can't emulsify, like the tallow and paraffin. I mean, you think about trying to get paraffin and water to be like one mixture, and just like not so much. It's not going to happen. But
it's funny when you ask a tanner to describe a leather, they tell you how you make it.
Oh, you wanted me to say like it has pull up.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like this is a very rich feeling leather. It's super full of waxes, oils, and greases, and the pull up is a very specific characteristic that not all leathers have. So I think that's an identifier. It also is self-polishing, which I find is an interesting characteristic because of all those waxes and oils that are tanned inside. You kind of just have to brush it. But it's also some of the things that I perceive as negative, I suppose. It dents and scuffs and scratches rather easily. However, it is very strong. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there where it can seem a little delicate, but also is very tough. The thing that I like about Chromexcel is when you scuff it, you kind of fill in those scuffs very easily, in the same way that the shell cordovan is very easily filled in, but they're for different reasons. How am I doing here?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's
what did I miss?
I think that the pull up that's like kind of like that's a very distinct characteristic of that is the fact you bend it, and then as you bend the leather, you get a color change, so it gets lighter wherever the crease is, and that's what's happening there. Is the greases and oils and waxes that are in the leather, as you bend it, you're sort of displacing those temporarily, and then when you lay it back down, they'll go back, and you can
kind of like a sponge full of water or something.
Kind
you
of
wring it out,
but it's like just happening on the surface, and it's not like you're making that one little spot dry. It's just sort of like an appearance. You're just getting the appearance of that happening, and that's again because of their super high oil content, which is like over 20%, which is really high. And pull up is interesting because from a style or fashion standpoint, it does well in some places and doesn't do well at all in other places because it's a kind of a more rugged aesthetic, I guess.
Like a flatter color tends to be a little bit more
Dressier.
dressed up.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of flatter color, I have some black or several pairs of black Chromexcel that don't seem to change color. And I'm playing a stupid person right now because I know the answer here, but tell me why the black doesn't have that same effect of the pull up on the other colors.
Because we have to use pigment. You can't get a true deep black with dye only when you're dyeing over something that's brown. It's not. You can't get like a jet black because we can introduce dye during the retanning process for Chromexcel, and we would get a black, what we call mill dyed black, but it's kind of like a gray. Well, it is a gray. It's like a mid-gray color. I mean, it doesn't matter how much black we put in. That's just the color that we get. So if we want a true black, we have to put pigment over the top of it. But also, given all that, most Chromexcel is on a natural base. So the base is, natural Chromexcel is kind of like a taupe color.
Yeah.
Like a light taupe. And then to get black, we're covering up something that's taupe. So we have to use pigment in that case, because if we were just to spray black on that, it would be the same issue. We would just be sort of trying to turn something brown that was, or trying to turn something black that was brown with dyes only. It just doesn't. You would never get it like a good true black.
The other thing that I noticed is everything seems to be earth tones. Again, I'm leading you because I know the direction here, but
because it's taupe, the base is brown.
Well, so I think of it like it's with that a high amount of wax and oil. It's hard to get like a vibrant pink or something out of it because it's like trying to make oil a bright color. You just kind of can't.
We can do.
So it's all earth tones.
It's earth tones because the base is that mid brown already, and we could get bright colors if we wanted to use pigments. But since it's aniline and we're just using stains, that brown is always going to influence the color.
That kind of reminds me of work shoe, though.
We can use pigment. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. It looks like it's a more ordinary product at that point. It doesn't have, the pull up then goes away. You still get the performance of it, and we do make a pigmented version, which is actually like an old fashioned.
It looks super vintage.
Yeah, it is a very vintage look.
It's called work. Is that the one that is called work shoe Chromexcel?
We can, I mean, it has a bunch of different names. I mean, the color that we made was called Tan P for pigment.
Great marketing.
It's very.
The P is for pigment?
I believe so.
I didn't know that.
But that's, I mean, I have a pair of boots. You've seen them from my grandfather that were that, and they're made by Chippewa probably in the, late 40s or early 50s. I mean, they're old.
I'm surprised at how much I like the look of those. I'll try to overlay a picture of that on the. I'll take a note too to put a picture of that over the video because they're awesome looking. They're really cool.
And Viberg, on one of their visits, saw those boots, and then they made not that boot, but they made a service boot out of the same color. So if you wanted to see a modern interpretation of it, it's pretty. I think it looked good.
I'm sorry. Who does that?
Viberg. They did it one. It was a one-time thing. You probably have to do some digging to find the picture.
Yeah. Well, we'll just call up Brett. Hey, Brett, make me another pair of these. Yeah. All right.
That's how it works. Not at all.
So I think the other thing that we can talk about characteristics of Chromexcel, and I've noticed this on some of my favorite footwear, and of course I'm going to sound like a shill for.
Well, I am because
like you make the leather.
I like it. We should also talk about its limitations too, though.
Yeah, when you're done. Sure. Yeah, I just feel like this has come up a few times in conversation, but I feel like the Chromexcel is very forgiving in terms of fit. Like I have noticed, especially in an unlined something. So when Oak Street first started, I picked up one of his mock toe. There's like a 5 eyelet. I forget what he calls it. It's like a boat shoe.
Like a Ranger mock.
Yeah.
Like a boat shoe with 5 eyelets instead of 3.
Is that what they're called?
I think so.
So I have one of those. And
I probably am not. I probably don't have the right number of eyelets, but
it's just like
right. Sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
Completely unlined, and it was probably like a full size too small for me. My foot goes like so far wide of the sole and I wore the absolute crap out of them. I remember moving apartments, 10 years ago in these things, and it was pouring rain. Like, who wears boat shoes to move? Anyways, they were great. It's super comfortable, and the thing about the fit, I think, is very interesting because it's like the Chromexcel wants to accommodate you completely. Like it seems to stretch out. Right. And same story with some indie boots that I have. I think it's like completely the wrong size, and I can see my foot going over the welt. But they're, you know what, man? They're comfortable, and I don't think it looks stupid. I actually find some of those wider width Aldens to look lame, in my opinion. I have a triple E indie boot also. I just don't think it looks as cool. There's something about the last shape on the D and E widths that are better, but
that depends a lot on what color like the stitching is and the color of the welt, and like if it's like a regular indie boot, sometimes it calls more attention to the fact that the shoe is like all of a sudden looking like a flipper.
Yeah, it looks, I don't know, looks strange.
Comfort is king, though. I would look a little silly to have comfortable feet.
I'll explain this part because I think this is really cool with the Chromexcel and why that leather is sort of hugging me in a pleasant way and sort of accommodating my foot and stretching. So Chromexcel is very stretchy. We make leather belts in it, and I actually cinch my belt pretty tight. So I'll get a good 1, maybe 2 inches of stretch depending on how tight I keep torquing that thing.
And where it's cut from, but yeah.
Yeah, true. Oh, we cut them from the bends.
Yeah.
Even up there, you get a little bit of stretch. It's not nearly as much stretch as in the bellies. Like,
yes, I mean, you get
half
more
the
as
amount.
you go down.
Yeah, like maybe even a third the amount.
Yep.
Like the bellies really want to move.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like the reason why it's stretching is super interesting, and it's my understanding that the reason why is you air dry it. You hang it up on a hook and just sort of let it shrink back on itself, as opposed to most drying methods that you're trying to stretch the leather out and heat it dry more quickly, larger area of the skin, which is how you get paid. So you're actively making yourself less money in 2 ways. You're making a smaller skin by roughly 3-4 feet.
20%.
Yeah. And you're also having it take a week plus, maybe a week and a half sometimes, depending on the weather, because it's just sitting there in the air.
Instead of an afternoon.
Instead of, a couple
4
hours.
Yeah.
Do I have that correct?
Yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, and we do make the conscious choice to let it air dry because it makes a better product. We can dry it other ways. We've tried it. It's just not as nice. It doesn't.
It's about the break.
Yeah, and the hand. It affects. It's not the same. We don't even call it Chromexcel. It has a completely different name.
What is that called?
Renegade.
Yeah.
Which I don't think anyone is buying right now. I don't think we've sold any of it in years because it's just not as good as the alternative.
I remember that Timberland, who has been buying Chromexcel for decades, wanted to cut some costs down and save a little bit of money on the leather because it's expensive.
Not just Timberland, everyone does that.
Well, yeah. But I remember about, it must have been like 16, 17 years ago now, they wanted to save a couple bucks and said, can you do anything that is like Chromexcel, but a little bit, save us 20 cents a foot or something. And I think that's how Renegade came about.
Yeah, I'm sure we tried something similar to it before then, just because why not? Because we've been making it for years and we have the equipment and it just would have made sense. But I do think that was the only program of size, and it didn't.
You never did it again.
No, because it didn't. It was so sure the yields were better, but I think that they ended up being able to, like their cutting yields were actually not as good because they were having to cut around more stuff that the break wasn't as good.
Interesting.
So,
you know what I really like is
the
toggle dry. We should describe all these different
so that's a good
methods of drying.
Yeah, so we air dry because it improves the hand and the break, and it does everything is good about it except for what it does to the yield. So it goes 20% smaller, which makes, to talk about one of the weaknesses of the Chromexcel, is expensive because that 20% is going into the air. So we have to figure out how to recoup some of that or all of that yield cost or yield loss, because one of the biggest price factors or pricing factors in the tanning industry is the price of the hide, of the very beginning raw material. So we're trying to spread the hide cost, which, call it $100, over as many square feet as possible. So if it's $100 and you get a 50 square foot whole hide, then you got $2 a foot in your hide cost before you've even done anything to it.
That's just hair in salted hide.
That's in the door, like no tanning, you haven't looked at it, you haven't moved it with a forklift, you haven't done anything with it.
It's on the truck on the way to you.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if it's 50 feet, it's $2. But then if you take that number and you reduce it by 20%, all of a sudden the $2, goes up a lot. So it starts to go up quickly, and it's
the denominator of the price. It's everything.
Yeah, that's not just that doesn't just hold for the hide cost. It holds for everything, because picking up a 25 square foot side or half hide, and feeding it into a machine is, for argument's sake, the same amount of work as picking up a 20 square foot hide and putting it into a machine. So the labor cost is the same. That it's the cost of putting it through a machine is the same. You're just working on slightly less area. So the air drying is great for everything, except it makes it more expensive for that reason.
But you stuck with it.
Well, it's better. It is. It's definitely. It's objectively better. It's not even. It's like we think it's better. We showed it to customers. It's been out in the world, and it's better to do it this way.
I actually really like some of the toggled stuff. Now, why would you want to toggle Chromexcel instead of air dry it?
So air drying is just hanging from hooks, and it just shrinks and dries and does whatever it's going to do.
I should have explained what toggling is. You're right.
And toggling is, there's a frame that you can lay horizontally, and has all these little clips that you can clip to the edges of the hide, and then there are hooks on the bottom of the clips which you can then kind of pull. You pull the hide kind of taut, and then you hook it into this frame. So it does the same thing as if you were to stretch it and nail it to a board. For that might be an easier thing to picture. It's like if you stretch something out and you're using nails and stretching the hide to a frame, like they would have done, forever years ago. It's doing the same thing, except instead of using nails, we're using something we can reuse.
It's called tacking.
It's called tacking, yeah. So that's sort of a hybrid of a drying technique in that it shrinks some, but not as much as it would if you were just air drying it, because there's still something holding it back. And then the other drying method, well, there's two more, but the pasting, which is the sort of the other end of the spectrum from air drying, is you're actually taking a paste, like a starch-based glue, and applying it to the grain, and then sticking the hide to a big glass sheet, a big glass pane, and then with
it's like a huge window.
Yeah, with scrapers, you're stretching the hide out, and it stays stuck against this glass as it goes through effectively an oven, and the hide can't shrink at all, which is good for yield, and also for some performance things. If you want a finished product that has no stretch to it, you need to make sure that during drying, you're taking the stretch out of it. So for an inflatable sporting good, pasting is way better than air drying.
Or like a card holder of a liner in the interior of a wallet.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people don't want their cards falling out. So we actually buy a pasted product that you make called Latigo that has much less stretch. The characteristics of the toggling, although it is air dried, I think some of the reasons that we had done the toggling on Chromexcel was to keep the thickness down, because when it dries, that area when it sort of puckers up, it actually gets a little thicker in the air drying, as far as I can tell, where the toggling sort of keeps that thickness thinner. If you want something like a jacket, maybe.
Yeah, it does. It does affect the thickness unevenly.
Yeah.
So we actually do, after air drying, we have to make sure that we can lay the leather flat, because it looks like a potato chip after that, because it's all curly on the edges. So we flatten it out, which is deceptively complicated.
Yeah.
And then it gets like dry split, which is so we're taking a split off the back of it just to even out the thickness because it's gained weight unevenly during the drying process.
Like a bump split is another term.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. All right, this is deep into the tanner brain of
we're deep. We're going way deep.
of Chromexcel.
So we should talk about some limitations, though.
All right, yeah. Let's crap on it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take a big Kohler all
just
over
for like
it.
maybe 30 or 40 seconds, and then we can start talking about how great it is again.
So it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Scratches, scuffs.
It's relatively fragile through the manufacturing process. You can dent it, and then for shoes, you have to figure out how to get that dent out at the end. It changes color over time, just from sitting, just because of the natural characteristics of the free barks and the oils and all that stuff. So it's not. It can be a challenge to color match for all those reasons, and then during lasting, all pull-up leathers change color when you last them, so you can end up with a two-tone shoe unintentionally because the toe will be lighter than like the quarters because they've had stretch to the vamp and not the rest of the shoe. So it can be, depending on the shoe or the customer or the application or the end customer. I mean, that can be a challenge too. And then you can't glue it.
Yes.
It's not cementable. You can glue it for a while, but the oils and the waxes will eventually defeat the glues, and things will come apart. Yeah.
I have seen some sneakers in the Chromexcel, but it's a variation on the Chromexcel.
Yep.
Which is why you don't see the non-cementable aspect, or you can't glue anything to it, is the reason you don't see a lot of vulcanized soles on the you don't see a lot of Chromexcel sneakers.
Not unless it's also sidewall stitched or has some sort of mechanical fastening. Yeah.
The other thing that you don't see very often is, I've seen them because you can do it, but it needs to come with a caveat, is the color fastness on something like a Chromexcel bag. You're going to rub off the color pretty quickly.
Immediately, right away.
And intense color rub off
yeah, it's
on,
the same,
on a light clothing.
For the same reasons that the glues don't work, or that the oils are keeping the dye mobile too. Mm-hmm. It's just and then we're using traditional dyes too, so they are already less color fast. And then that does change depending on the color to a certain degree, but yeah, like burgundy is common. The color comes off pretty readily, especially if it's hot and humid. And
yeah, I guess one of the other characteristics that I would call a negative is we did talk about it, but the earth tones.
Yeah, the color limitations.
A lot of people want brighter shades, especially in a boat shoe, right? Which is what Chromexcel has become widely used for. There's a lot of great boat shoes in Chromexcel, and Sebago wants a Gulf green or like a bright orange or yellow. You just can't get anything reasonable looking on Chromexcel.
Not in the traditional sense, no. We do have, I think you're alluding to some versions of it. So we have spin-offs. So we have a Beaufort Chromexcel, it's called, which is lower oil content. So I think it gets down like 15%, which is still high, but it's gluable at that point as long as you take the right preparations or make the right preparations. And then I'm saying and then a lot. There's to cut out all the and thens.
No and then.
Cavalier Chromexcel is the same. It's the same processes. It's just a different retannage, which is not so earth tony, and then a lighter colored wax blend. So an adapted wax blend that's also lighter in color, so that all the same processes. It's just the base color isn't that sort of mid taupe. We've got a lighter base to work off of, so we can get out of the earth tone realm and get into the bright orange and the London bus red. I'm using our silly color names. And Kelly green. Yeah, so we can do bright greens and reds and yellows and oranges and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we did sort of start off talking about the mechanical. That's not a version of. I guess there is a mechanical tannage, but there's also like a Chromexcel mechanical.
There's a couple different ones, yeah.
I actually don't know what the difference is.
One is, I couldn't tell you why they order two different types, like what the application differences are. I just sort of know like what the mechanical goes into. I don't know like again which one goes into which, but there's a fat liquored version, so emulsified oils and waxes, and then there is the hot stuff version. And
so one of them's just called straight up mechanical, and the other one's is called M, short for mechanical Chromexcel. So M's Chromexcel.
Yes.
Or Chromexcel M's.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so. My customers get so frustrated because tan P is a good example. Like, what's the P? It's big, man.
Yeah. The color names.
Even like color 8, I get a lot of people confused.
Yeah, we're not as super inspired at times in terms
You gotta
of
work on that marketing.
colors and
Although, like these days, color 8 is an actual thing to a small segment of people, and I like it because I don't know. My brain goes like, "Oh, color 8. I know exactly what that is," as opposed to burgundy, which I feel can be many, many things. Anyways,
I feel bad for whoever works at Pantone that has to come up with the color names because they like come up with like a whole color book every year.
thousands. It's crazy. Yeah.
Seems miserable.
You didn't share with me what is in that folder, but you did mention, you gave me like the headline.
Yeah.
Should we go through these one by one?
I'm gonna hear the rustling of the folder.
Rustle it, yeah. This is an ASMR folder opening episode.
All right, so here's you.
Oh, shit. The seals.
I think you've seen this is like good. So there's an actual gasket.
It's metal.
Metal. Well, that's
wait.
the leather's inside there.
Right.
It's inside the.
So this is the gasket.
And that's what's inside there. So you can see just the very edge of it on the metal part.
Getting this little.
You can just take pictures of that.
Yeah, I'll take pictures of it.
But yeah, I mean they cut concentric rings, so you end up with.
So this is leather.
That's it. I don't know if it's supposed to have a flat side like that, or if they sent that to us because
they're like, this sucks.
They're like there was an issue where they were showing us something, or they were saying that this is a good thickness. That's probably for one of those reasons, but yeah. So they get the leather, and then they ironically
it could either be the M's Chromexcel or mechanical, and they come up with this.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
But
and then
the ironic thing is they degrease the leather. So they get it and they soak it in something to take the grease that we've put in it.
That 20%
out
content.
of it. They're like, that's too high.
They're like, how do we know?
So they want more of like a true veg product, but also like has like the strength and the heat resistance of a chrome product. So they're trying to dial in some sort of compromise because they want something that's going to be pliable enough that they can mold it, but then also strong enough that it's going to hold up.
This diameter, what do you think they're using this huge thing for?
That's like a big pipe fitting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-inch diameter pipe.
Yeah, it's huge. Industrial, probably. Like,
I mean that looks like it would go on like the pipe that comes up out of the ground in like an oil rig. Like it's like
Could be.
It's like that big, but I don't know exactly what that was for. I would have to ask. I think this is from CW Marsh. I'd have to ask them.
But this was not the first. Maybe it was one of the first uses for the Chromexcel. This and we should have actually gone into the wine burner thing. They were making shoes. What were they making?
Boots. Yeah.
Boots.
Yeah.
Cool. Like work boot type things.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this also came at that same time. They said maybe, hey, I'm speculating, of course, but somebody was looking for leather seals and said, hey, Arnold or Isidore Horween, what do you got? He's like, well, we're making this Chromexcel now, and here you go, figure it out.
Yeah, I think that I don't know how they first got started doing that stuff. I think that obviously that was before my time, around 19.
Yeah, 110 years ago.
Yeah, but
that's so long.
Yeah, I mean, and there were like 30 tanneries in Chicago, and these companies are in Chicago or outside Chicago. So they were going to be buying from some tannery here because this was sort of tannery central at one point. But I'm not exactly sure how they decided to, I mean, probably like anything else. They had a sales guy that went out there and the price was competitive and the product was good or better than the other options. And
I'm thinking around that time. So this was 8 years into your family's tannery business. And I recall the stories of shell cordovan starting to be less popular because it was used for razor strops, and razor strops were just kind of not necessary because of the safety razor.
Because the disposable razor was invented.
I'm imagining a story where they were fishing for business. Like, oh, we need to get some, we need to make some leather here because nobody's buying this cordovan.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about now.
Right? Yeah, because that's all they were making in the beginning. They were just making the one product.
And Florsheim being in Chicago here, I think they were the first use of cordovan in footwear, as far as I can tell.
I'm not sure. I'm not. Maybe in its current, as it currently exists, because they were using it like the work shoe, but version was in like super old Wolverines, but the shell wasn't exposed. They were just using it because it was really strong.
Right.
But yeah, Florsheim was here, and I don't know exactly when they first started to fully expose the shell and then add color to it. I mean, that's not an idea that we came up with. I mean, that was something that existed in Europe before we tried it.
Well, I'm noticing the interesting thing about... I think that tie-in of the tannery going from shell cordovan only for razor strops to other products is how you ended up doing the mechanical for many, many years, until today still, and the Chromexcel. But it's also interesting because I've noticed the methods of tanning and re-tanning on the cordovan have some similar characteristics to the Chromexcel. So I wonder if they took some of that knowledge from the shell and sort of like shifted it to side leather or steer hides. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm speculating.
Yeah, sure. That means the inputs are, the processes are similar. The
you could see how they got there is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also try to think, it's hard to, it's all speculation, but to think about the limitations back then of just the technology, how different things were. Everything was fully mechanical. I mean, there was like flywheels and pulleys and belts everywhere, and like they were clutches and running stuff off of single drives, and it was
all steam powered.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a big, it was coal at one point, and then it was oil, and then now it's natural gas. There
were no electric motors though. So that's actually, we're way off on a tangent here, but one of the coolest things about the tannery is when I give a tour, or when I used to give a tour, I would show people all the pulleys and the belts. And you think about how those factories worked in the Industrial Revolution. There was one boiler that some guy would just be shoveling wood or coal into all day that would drive a pulley,
a shaft,
and then you would just connect belts to all the pulleys around the building. So everything was off of one thing.
Was geared off of shaft.
You still see all those belts in some of the places.
And
even like a fan, they're just like this huge belt.
They're all, which is so unfortunate because the clutches are they wear out a lot and they're hard to maintain because nobody makes them anymore. But all the belts are now driven by electric motors. But whenever we talk about making something direct drive, and that's like a big deal in our building. To just attach a motor to it to like make it. It's still all cast iron, and like you have to take it apart to fix it. But at least it has a motor. Like doesn't have a belt on it anymore. It's kind of silly, kind of funny.
I think I broke my train of thought, at least of where we were.
Yeah, mechanical. So
this is it.
That's it. So
all right, cool. Next, it's cool. I think it's neat. I don't use any motor seals or anything or gaskets, so I don't really have like an interest in it.
It's not.
I think the story though with the war effort stuff. Yeah. Do you have documents of that?
Yeah, I do. So it's not like a. It's a story. I mean, it's not like a sexy piece of leather. I mean, even if you were to make it into like a shoe or a belt, it would look kind of like whatever. It would be indestructible, but it wouldn't be like
not super
as
beautiful.
Appealing as.
And this is not as you send it, right? This is obviously after they've.
I think they split it.
They've done a bunch of work.
Oh yeah, they split it and they've degreased it and they've put it into a form and made it into a shape that they want. But
look at all these typewritten, like weathered pages.
Yeah. So are you going to put these in? Like
I'll take some shots of all these. Okay.
I'll leave.
Can I borrow this?
Yeah, leave it with you. We'll leave it with you. Yeah. So this one actually is not dated, but it's from sometime in early 40s because it has all these customer names, and then if it was a like their customer rating, which I think is a
credit rating.
No, I think it's a priority.
Because the A1B, I believe, is a credit rating.
Well, it's
today.
A-1-A, and I think that stuff is like maybe it was an order, like sort of an order of importance, because they weren't able to make enough stuff. So I have to go back and look because
the war effort part.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe the government designated like you have to fulfill this guy first, kind of thing, or was it an internal rating? We don't know.
Yeah, it just says in the end of this letter, which says confidential, which I think it's okay at this point, but it says, the credit rating, or not credit ratings. You see here in my head. Ratings extending down to A10 to under P-100. So then that's like, I don't even know. It goes down to P100. So I don't know exactly what that is. But it's interesting. Just
read some of the names on there.
Let's see. General Railway Signal. Let's see if there's GM of Canada, Worthington Pump and Machinery Corp., Northern Pump Company, which says it's U.S. Navy contract 76700. Blackhawk Manufacturing, which I think was a big deal back then. I think they made a lot of different stuff. Welding Machinery. Let's see if there's any other names that are Naval Aircraft Factory at the Navy Yard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
So it's like anything that moved.
Direct governmental order. Yeah, so this is, and then this customer list, this next one is a little bit more self-explanatory, where it's like Chrysler, Ford, Mack truck, pressed steel car, white motor, and it's tanks, trucks, gun mounts, etc. Jeeps, trucks, tanks, half tracks and trucks, axles, road scrapers. Let's see if there's anything. Jeeps and beeps, army cars, tank transmissions, parts for tanks, transmissions, drivers, boots and equipment, airplane parts.
You read all these off, and I'm like waiting for like shoes, and it's so.
This must have been a different. I mean, the files are not totally complete.
Well, I think the point I'm getting across there is like the tannery was just making motor seals.
Yeah, they said in this other letter, and I won't just read the whole letter because it's kind of long, but they were saying that they gave away, I think is the word, what they say in here, all of their civilian business. So they weren't doing any
Weinbrenner.
They weren't doing any like shoes for people that were just here in the U.S.
I wonder if that's what they had to do to get the contracts.
Yeah, I think it was a capacity thing. They also talk about they had like no profit margin, which is, I don't totally believe that, but because of the quantities were good, and I
like
see
a zero profit. Like
no, I think they were. I like to think that my ancestors were like, we're going to support this, and like we don't need to we're making more stuff, so we'll like take a less of a margin, and just do this stuff because it's like kind of like the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Because I brought, it's unrelated kind of, but a postcard, like it was a thank you letter for a donation that my great grandfather made to the London Air Raid Relief Fund from World War I.
How much money was it? Does it say?
$50.
Yeah.
I'd have no idea. I didn't look up how much that was, but
but that was decades after these documents that were, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that he was an immigrant to the U.S., so I think he had a lot of pride in the country, so he was trying to do his part, which I think was pretty common back then. I think, World War II, think about all the people that signed up to go over there and like lied about their age. They were too young because they wanted to go because they felt like it was the right thing to do.
That's pretty wild.
Nobody's doing that today.
I don't know if you'd get that today.
Definitely not.
What is that? It's like a spreadsheet.
This is a price list from 1922. Smooth natural Chromexcel.
I'm honestly impressed by the formatting.
Like
somebody took all the time to line that up.
Yeah. 5 ounce smooth natural Chromexcel, 29 cents a foot.
I could do some business with that price. Not inflation adjusted.
No. I brought this because it's interesting because we were talking about price a little bit. So 1922, it's 29 cents, and then 1937, it ranges from like 34 to 38 cents. So not that crazy of a change, at least I don't think. But then
in percentage is pretty decent.
But then if you go into, this goes right into the wartime. So Chromexcel goes back down to 21 to 25 cents a foot.
Oh.
So it went in 1940, it was cheaper than it was in 1922. So it's interesting. I mean, I think that's...
Well, there was Great Depression. And then they had...
22 is pre-depression though, right? Yeah.
Is it? When was the Great Depression?
I think... maybe cut this out because I don't like
time to go.
Unsure. I think it's 1929. This is terrible that we don't just like know that automatically.
Well, my point was it was after the Great Depression. Then they created. Is that when they created the Fed?
1929, 1939.
Yeah. When did the Federal Reserve become? Oh, way before. Anyways, I was wondering if
I know they changed a lot of the
we'll
trading practices in terms of what you were able to buy and sell on margin.
You know what? Let's do an inflation corrected price.
Let's cut out all the stuff about the depression. Us just guessing what happened.
Yeah. What's the So you said the price. The earliest price you have is what?
I think it was 29 cents.
29 cents in what year?
For 5 ounce. That's 1922.
All right. The value of 29 cents in 1922 was $4.67. Is that per foot?
That's per foot.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. It's not. It's low. It's too low.
Compared to today.
Chromexcel's more than $4.67 a foot.
And then what was the later 1940?
It was 21 cents. It was even cheaper.
In 1940?
Yeah. To put it into
$4.18.
To put it into some perspective, shells were $3 each.
Each?
Yeah.
And they were probably bigger.
I'm sure they were bigger.
Then too.
I'm sure they were bigger.
Wow, so nobody got, well, that was all for the war.
$3 a shell. And now they're more than $3 a shell.
More than, yeah. Wow, yeah. Well, so wait, I guess I would calculate that. So, in what year was it $3?
I don't know exactly. I was just talking to my dad, and he said that was I think that was a pretty...
Yeah, $3 in 1940 was $60 basically, according to this.
Yeah, that's again, not enough, but...
Their demand was probably a little different.
Yeah, they were making a ton more.
Yeah.
A ton more.
Maybe his supply was better.
I don't know. I think we weren't the only ones making it at that point, I don't think. I think there were still domestic, meaning U.S. manufacturers of cordovan.
All right, you have a document here that says shoe upper.
Yeah. So the mechanical stuff was a big deal, and that was going into like all the moving parts in basically everything. So we weren't the only people making that either. But then on the shoe side of things, we talk about this thing talks about, and maybe I don't know, it's kind of long, but talks about how the what people are calling the boondocker came to be, and how the North African campaign, the service shoes were unsatisfactory, so they were looking at something different, and a bunch of people submitted a bunch of different things, and then they decided on natural rough out Chromexcel,
which you now call marine field shoe.
And we did back then, because this was for the Marine Corps, at least in the beginning, or maybe the whole time. But and then I keep saying
and then. That's the thing about a podcast is you can
pay attention to what you're saying.
You realize how much you suck.
So this talks about towards the end of 1942, after the African invasion. The demand was crazy and way more than we could support. So the quartermaster said, this is the leather here are the specifications. And then that was a formula that we had developed and owned, and we couldn't make enough. So I think it was my great grandfather went around and just showed other people how to make it.
Chromexcel?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we
I didn't know
couldn't.
that.
So there's a tannery list on here, and I'm not going to read it off, but I'll show it to you
Really?
because I don't want people going through their files. But
Oh, you don't want to.
no, I'm sure.
I see somebody that I'm familiar with that
Yeah.
you can't say any of these.
I don't. There's no reason. There was like 8,
Would people be able to guess
6,
these
7,
names?
8. I mean, they are all out of business,
Ah,
so it doesn't really matter. But
interesting though that they would give away their trade.
yeah, again,
secrets.
it was like like a we got to work together kind of thing. And then this talks about the quantities, and it's 15 to 18 million feet per month. So there's no chance, even at our absolute biggest, that we could get anything close.
That's a lot of shoes.
It's a ton. That's all. I don't even know. But that's why there were 8 tanneries. They were just all making natural
Chromexcel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
and just making tons of boots.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's insane.
Isn't that's
How long did that last for?
I don't know. I don't think that lasted for very long, because this talks about 1942. So there was only 2 years probably that lasted, which is
That's a
still,
lot of
still a
leather.
long time, or a year and a half, or
That's
a year
a lot
and
of
change.
animals, right? That's like all the.
Yeah. And that
It's
was
like all the animals.
and everything was being rationed at that point too. So even all of that stuff, even the leather that wasn't going into this, and all of the beef that was coming out of all of that, like everything was rationed. They needed more than they had.
Yeah, like how that's crazy. They must
Yeah.
have had to back the chain of events up to the ranchers and just like get more animals.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if they. I don't know if they were
It's not like you
They
just
were called on
get
to
an animal
deliver
too. It takes years.
15 to 18 million feet per month. That was the demand. I don't know. It doesn't talk about if they were
Oh, they did
able
it.
to. I think that they were. I think that's why he went around and went to places and said, we've got these gigantic government contracts. Here, don't make this after the war, basically, because I'm shaking your hand.
Wow.
And then there's more in here about why they chose.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the reason for the marine field shoe what was did they explain what the failure was or the insufficiency was in the prior material?
They just, I think I don't know. I think that the prior material, or the what came before it, was not flesh out, and the when they made it flesh out, that made the inside of the boot super smooth and cut down on people's issues with their feet. But this talks about there's like tensile strength, stretch. You can maybe put this in stitch, tear, shrink at 0 degrees, and then chemical characteristics and let's see, tensile strength, just as an example. The quartermaster desire as much as possible, and it says our leather is 16% stronger than the next best and 25% stronger than the average. So they just chose it because it was
Stronger.
performing. And then there's all of these. Yeah, this is an internal document, so we're talking about how good we are. But all of this is just showing like how much better our stuff was performing than the other submitted leathers.
Why would they want to make an internal document just circle jerking?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know who this was to. This was written to someone. That's, because they're talking about tanning, like the timber tanned calf in here too.
Which you cannot make anymore.
Which we cannot make anymore. But that's a full veg calf that we made, and they're talking about how much they sold in 1942, which is, again, a crazy.
Were they using that for the war also?
No,
That
I don't
seems
think
more
so.
like a dress.
I think this was
leather.
after. This was after. It says that this timber tan calf was purely a civilian leather.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's interesting, but what's crazy is just the numbers to me. Like I can't.
The scale
is crazy, and it's interesting to see the performance stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I liked Chromexcel, but I think part of the part of the reason that it's special is the story. Like anything, if you know like a little bit more about something, it feels more relatable somehow and more interesting.
There's one more interesting thing in this thing I forgot. So they were talking about the beam house here, and it's just philosophical at this point because we don't do it exactly this way anymore. But they were talking about the average beam house time for a tannery is 3.5 days, and they said after experimentation, we found that it's better if you take 6 days. So they were
To remove the hair?
I don't know at the average beam house time. So this was, I think it was, there's soaking in lime to loosen the hair and then mechanically removing the hair. And then bait, pickle, and tan. It was 6 days instead of 3.5.
Maybe there's just a slower tannage.
Yes, I don't know if it's a slower tannage or if it sat in the pickle longer or if they were soaking it in the lime longer to more effectively remove the hair, or I don't know. They don't talk about why, but they talk about that they're going to do that to make a better product, even though it's going to reduce their capacity by 50%, because it's going to take them twice as long at that point to make that. But they're like, it's better, so we're doing it.
Huh. I wonder if more binding of the chrome salts or something would make it better. I don't know how else. You're just removing hair. Like
Well, they're talking the beam house, so they're talking about all the way through.
Yeah, but
tanning,
I mean, that would be the only thing is the fixation of the chrome and a tighter bond of those fibers in the tannage before the retannage.
It must have been a chrome content or density issue, is my speculation. But interesting. I mean,
This is awesome, man.
It's
Do you have more cool old stuff about other leathers? I'm wondering if we should do this again.
This is pretty interesting. I found there's some cool correspondence about selling some shell into Cuba, like pre.
Whoa.
I have like a big file on that, like all this like random correspondence about selling shells into Cuba and how it wasn't going to work, but
Really?
but still interesting, like back and forth between the tannery and then I think an agent in New York and then someone in Havana. So there's like 3 people that were corresponding about
to make shoes or something?
They just talk about getting samples. I think it's been a long time since I read it, but
Maybe they're making cigar holders.
yeah, the prices of stuff. But there's so much old stuff. I mean, there's so much old stuff.
I'm gonna want you to dig up more of that, and we can do another episode on something else.
I'll do it. Let's put a button on this. How we can do that?
Put a pin in it.
Button, doorknob.
Put a doorknob on it. I've never heard of that saying.
Seems right.
It seems good. Well, good one. Thank you for bringing that. By the way, I that felt really heavy. Like because I started thinking about the volume and the scale of like a war like that,
And why you need so many boots. Yeah, it's intense.
that hit me kind of hard there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I think it makes it real for us because we understand what a crazy amount of leather that is.
It's a lot.
Where someone else might not realize how much leather that is, but that's like more. That's more leather in a month than we make in several years.
Yeah.
So they're doing that every month, and that's like multiple. That's like many years for us at this point. So
That's crazy. Let's get light.
yeah, let's do something.
You got to bail on favorites before. Oh, although I think I might put this one out before. By the way, I might skip this one ahead of the line. So favorites. What do you got? You want to start, or do you want me to?
You start.
Damn it, Nick.
Can we take a beat?
No, we're gonna just go for it. I'll try to explain mine, although mine's really quick and easy. We have the same birthday, Nick. Happy birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Again.
You called me. I didn't call you.
You sent me a beautiful GIF on the phone. I forget it was something stupid.
It was very stupid.
Thank you for that. But for my birthday, my wife got me something I had asked for. We've been married long enough where you're just like, hey, what do you want? All right, cool. And then the day comes, you're like, surprise. Not really. So I was asking for some winter running gear, and because it gets pretty cold here in Chicago, and you kind of need some thermals and like windbreaker type things. She bought me some stuff from Lululemon, which you had suggested to me before. I think you suggested that to my wife,
Really?
and she picked up a T-shirt from there, which I think you suggested.
I don't know. Maybe Lauren.
Maybe
wife.
Lauren.
Yeah,
My wife.
It's my wife. It's nice. I like for workout gear. I've been wearing 10,000.
What's that?
It's just like I don't know exactly. It's like a direct. It's like one of those direct online retailer jams. But
10,000 is what's
that's the name. That's the name of the company.
It seems like the Lululemon stuff is really nice. I like it, but it seems really expensive. I mean, and if you look at the tag, it's also all plastic.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. But, I don't know how else you can achieve the performance that I'm looking for.
Wool.
Yeah.
But
You want to run in like a big
you can do a wool. They do like a wool blend, so it's not all poly something. But
yeah. I like it. I've been wearing the joggers.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a little bit lazy and like uncool.
like you can move fast if you need to at any time.
Oh yeah, I'm bending and flexing. What do you got? You got a favorite?
I never know to do. I guess
I'll give you a heads up, Nick. We're gonna do these podcasts every week. So think of like
come up with a list of stuff as I'm like, I like that, and then
this
write it down.
happens every week.
Sometimes multiple times a week. I went back and I don't remember why or how I stumbled on it, but I started watching some Norm Macdonald stuff. The late great Norm Macdonald, because he passed away, I think, last year. I don't think it's been a year yet, I guess is what I'm saying. Recently.
Yeah.
And so funny.
He's good.
I think that he's not for everybody, but some of the stuff is just so, and there's no way, like, how sometimes there's like a joke or like a bit or a stand-up comedy, something or another that you can tell someone and they can find it funny. Like you cannot do that with
because it's all like, him.
It's he's
the funny part.
Well, the stuff is funny too, but you can't, like, the delivery is so important. But
who's the other guy that we like that's like very sarcastic? The album Caligula.
Anthony Jeselnik.
You can't come show up and say, "Hey, Phil, check out this funny joke that Anthony Jeselnik told you." It's all him.
On some of those, you have a chance though, because the jokes are written so well or so offensively, depending on your point of view on the particular joke. But both those guys are funny. But Norm Macdonald, he's my favorite media something for the past week. Just on Instagram, you just like search Norm Macdonald and like all of his clips come up, and it's just different, like him at all different ages, and it's funny.
Yeah. A big loss. All right, Nick, downer episode today on the end here. But no, it's also good. It's good. It's uplifting.
Go laugh. Just don't remember he's no longer with us.
Yeah. But that's actually the cool thing about the day and age we live in, is you can experience people that are no longer here.
Yeah.
Still and forever. All right, everybody. Nick, thank you for bringing all these documents. Great episode today. Hope everybody enjoyed it. And until next time, hope you guys have a good one.
Bye-bye.